Hey everybody, welcome to episode 57 of the Corner Blue. We do not film or record this podcast chronologically. This is the tail end of an hour, almost 2 hour evening. So that's why this episode's so special. We got into a lengthy chat with none other than Diego Henríquez, former sporting director of La Selecta. Had an amazing chat. Was gracious enough to share many anecdotes with us about his experience, coming up as a player and then pivoting into more administrative roles within football. Hugo, how are you doing? What can you tell us about this episode or the chat that we just had?
It's a great chat. I'm really excited for the fans to be able to listen to this, and it was good to catch up with Diego. A person who opened doors for me. So always grateful, and always good to chat with him and to learn about his journey. As I said it before, I think I said it to him personally. It's I feel like his journey, it's something that could be applied in other areas of life where, when you have a vision and you follow through and you can make it happen. It's not like sometimes I think we get lost in trying to find everything to fit perfectly the way we want it, and that a lot of times can hold us back from actually trying it out and checking it out and doing it. And people will hear it. Some people might know some part of the story, but it was more of his own initiative. Here's a plan, here's what I can do, here's how we can execute it. Presented that to the committee back then, and we all know what happened after that. I think there is I think that whether some people like it or not, I think there is he set a precedent. There is a before and after Diego Henríquez in a way, because at least in my generation and my following of Salvadorian national team, we never had a sporting director. We had coordinators. We had Benitez. I remember when I started getting involved, we had Benitez doing the job of the coordinator, and that was okay. And then Ernesto Goches came in and took on that job for a while, and I think Ernesto brought that role of a coordinator to an improvement from what was before under Benitez. And then then Diego Henríquez came in as a sporting director, which again I don't think we ever had a sporting director. So now we kind of got a glimpse and a taste of what's possible when you have a sporting director that has the experience and the credentials and the knowledge to get some things done, and you get to hear some of that journey and how some of the things that he was able to accomplish, and how and the challenges. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So without much further ado, here's the past, present, and future with Diego Henriquez. Enjoy. Okay, Diego, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us. I've seen that you've been busy with some of your responsibilities with College Cup. I've seen you posting things on social media. How was that tournament? What have you been up to recently? If you'd like to fill in our listeners with your recent activities.
Of course, of course. First of all, thank you, Hugo and Andres, for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor to have a chance to speak and talk a little bit about football and a little bit about El Salvador. So lately, yes, I've been very busy with the College Cup, the Elite Academy. We're working or been working the last 5 years on growing and starting this Elite Academy, and now we are starting to see the results of working development of players that started with us in 9-10 years old, And last week we were playing Dallas Cup in a very high level, with them being now 15 and 16, 5-6 years later. So that's part of what we're doing, and very happy that now not just being College Cup, but they're players from El Salvador that have been with all the conditions that we have that can be positive some, and some that can be, very, let's say, complex. But we're showing that still with those complex opportunities or conditions that we have here, there's a way to work and develop players.
And so how'd the tournament go? How'd the team do?
We ended up second in our group. Unfortunately, we couldn't go through. Only first place goes through. It's a very competitive tournament. We were two months ago playing a tournament in Miami, which is not that competitive. And we had 10 teams, and we ended up winning 4 out of those 10 categories that we play. But Dallas Cup is very competitive. So we end up second in the group, won 2 games, lost 1, and only the first place went through. So still, I think is very, very good. It's not easy for an academy from El Salvador to go play teams that are playing MLS Next, teams that are playing ECNL. We play the national champion of ECNL in the group, which is a 2007 category, so U16s. All this is very competitive. These guys, and we know this. Hugo knows this. We've been working with Hugo with finding talent that's playing MLS Next or ECNL. This platform that's in the youth level in the US, they put in work, and it's not recent. They've been doing it for 10, 15 years. Now the gap between them and Central America, it's tough to fill in, and they're now even beating European teams. At the same time we were playing Dallas Cup, GA Cup was being played, and you see MLS academies beating Arsenal, beating Real Madrid. That 10 years ago was probably unthinkable, and now it's happening.
And Diego, how does first of all, thank you for being here, and it's always good to catch up with you. As I always said, and I say here again, you were the person who opened a door for me to be able to do what I do more as an official role. So I'll always be grateful for that. And hearing you talk about having your academy, College Cup, and you can tell us a little bit more about the structure later, but how does one get into those tournaments? How do you find those opportunities that, a lot of people out there, a lot of fans are wondering, why can't the national team, the youth national teams, participate more in those type of tournaments? So how does one achieve that? Do you get sponsorship? Are the families of the players paying for it? How do you get into those tournaments, and what are the logistics to get into them?
That's good questions. I had the chance to play Dallas Cup back in 2001 when I was a player of the U17s national team of El Salvador. And I remember that experience was amazing, just having the chance to play. At that time, there was no MLS academies. There was only clubs, and there were Mexican clubs playing the tournaments. So at that time, it's, let's say, easier to get into the tournament. You could get an invite, or you can apply and get an invitation. Nowadays, it is much more complex to be able to play the tournament. First, to get accepted as a team or the club as an academy, then to find the resources for a team from Central America or El Salvador to travel and pay for all the expenses. So I'll try to go in that order. First, just football-wise, there's only 240 spots for Dallas Cup between U12s and U19s. And that's for US academies or clubs, and international clubs or academies, also from a lot of parts from the world. So U.S. clubs need to first play and get compete for a spot to play Dallas Cup, and then for international teams you apply. And I'd say just from the top, Real Madrid wants to play, they don't need to do anything. Just, hey, Real Madrid wants to play U19s or U16, they're in, no problem at all. But then you have some, let's say, small academy from Japan or El Salvador, which was what happened this year. So Japan, a small academy was playing in the U15s. So they applied like we did, and they asked for information about our local tournaments and if we had played international tournaments for them to really evaluate if the level it's okay to compete at Dallas Cup. So we send information of our local tournaments. Luckily, our structure in College Cup, it's part of our vision to play international tournaments, and most of them in the US. And we can talk a little bit about that, just because this is how I started College Cup, with the idea to have players have the opportunity to play in universities in the United States, just to get scholarships through soccer. That's how College Cup started, because I had the opportunity to do it, and it changed my life. And I wanted to help others do it, because there's a lot of talent here, and education is improving more and more. So you have more student athletes able from El Salvador to go to US and play NCAA, NAIA, junior college, or even now we're opening opportunities in boarding schools, so high school. So we have played different tournaments in the US, and we send all that information. And it's a combination, that they evaluate that we were competing, that we had decent teams, and also that gives Dallas Cup value, that they're bringing international teams, just not local teams. And not all the top teams will be able to go. So it's good for them to have a combination of a team from Japan, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and yes, top teams like Real Madrid, Fulham, Sao Paulo, Botafogo, Tigres, Monterrey, that are always there. So that part, that's how you can do it. You can apply. Anybody, any club in the world, basically, they can apply, and they'll ask for information, and they'll tell you if you can play or not. With the resource, it's last year, it was my idea and Jerson's idea to have the U20s go play Dallas Cup. It made a lot of sense timing wise. It was 2 months before the qualifying for U20s, and playing that level, it was good. So by Hugo Perez, he's good friends with Gordon Diego, one of the founders of Dallas Cup. He was his coach. Like that. This is very, it's lucky and blessings and just the right time, right spot. So Gordon Diego is one of the founders, and Hugo told me, "Hey, I know him, and you can talk to him and see if we can play these type of tournaments." So in 2021, that we were in Dallas for Gold Cup, Gordon Diego came to lunch with us at the hotel. So I got to meet with him, talk about different opportunities for teams from El Salvador to come play Dallas Cup, and next year you have the U20s. He told me, "Hey, no worries. You just talk to me, tell me what age group, if you want to bring the national team, we will support with hotel, with transportation. We will help you with that." Nice. That just for national teams though, or top teams like Real Madrid, they'll get that type of support or conditions. Mm-hmm. But then for a club, like a small club from El Salvador or Japan or Costa Rica, you have to finance it all. Like Alajuelense was there in the super group, U19s. and the club paid for everything. Dallas Cup helped them with transportation, local transportation, not airplane, not plane or anything. Just in Dallas, move from hotel to stadium. They support with that, but the rest, Alajuelense was paying for food, for hotel, for airplane, everything. And then for us, College Cup, it's 80-20. 80% of the cost for us to play these tournaments are paid by parents. And 20%, we support some families, or boys or girls, like are not able to pay. We do pay for them. We pay for everything. And it's like, I can tell you, like 20% of our teams are boys or girls that need financial support, that we as an academy, we support them.
So in essence, to be a part of your academy, do the players have to pay a fee or is it just for the tournaments that they have to finance the fees to play?
No, it's the same. It's the same. Like they everybody pays, or this 80% they pay a monthly fee.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say academies, clubs in the US, except for MLS, which the club covers everything. But let's say Stoller from Dallas, or let's say, I don't know, from California, probably I forgot some of the clubs, not MLS clubs, but academies. Like I think might be Strikers or some other clubs, but any club in the US that's not MLS, you pay a fee.
Yep.
So same for us. They pay a monthly fee, but 20% of the academy, we finance everything for them. Monthly fees, travel expenses, that's being covered.
What are your demographics per se? Because if for College Cup you're basically looking for opportunities for some of those athletes to perhaps get a scholarship and study in the US, obviously they need to have some level of English. So and to be able to get a scholarship in a US university, they need to speak English. So are they coming from certain schools in El Salvador where they're learning English, and of course there has to be some type of way to the GPA basically they have to
definitely
have good grades, right?
We mainly work with private schools. That's our segment that we focus on. But still, like I told you, 20% of our academy comes from anywhere. Like we spotted a year ago a girl that's from El Puerto, La Libertad, from a very humble place in El Puerto, and she's part of the academy. She traveled to Miami in February, played, scored goals, and had this great opportunity to expose her talent in not just El Salvador, but in the US. But maybe for her, it'd be at the moment tough to look for an athletic scholarship in the US. The English will be tough, and to get a TOEFL or SAT to get in a school in the US would be tough. But for her, the pathway, we or any academy tries to work on the player pathway, will be here, and we'll find her scholarship here to go high school here or a university here. But for the rest, the 80% that goes to private school, we really focus on this student athlete culture. Like, okay, yeah, you're good at soccer, you can play, you can go and play tournaments with us locally or internationally, but you need to have certain GPA. By 16, 17, you need to have this grade in TOEFL and prepare for SAT. But you start preparing for these type of opportunities that we will expose you with coaches. Not just, like I told you guys, not just university or college. Now we're working with boarding schools. At the moment, we have 34 boys and one girl that already with scholarships in the US.
Diego, you mentioned that you had the experience of being able to be a student athlete yourself and making it to the States. Could you talk about your career as a player and where that took you?
Yeah. I think it was a life-changing experience for me. Like I played here and from U8s through U16s at La Chelona. That was the academy I was developed, let's say, by at that moment. So when I'm in U14s, I get not called. It was visoria. Like they're still doing it right now. Open visoria for the U15s. So I went and got picked and played for U17s. I was in the process of 2 years, from 2000 to 2002. It was a process for the U17s. So I played U17s. We played the qualifying in Guatemala. Well, first it was UNCAF in Honduras. We beat Honduras and Nicaragua. We got through to the Premundial. At that moment, it was 4 only in one country and the other 4 playing in a different country. We played in Guatemala against US, Jamaica, Guatemala, and El Salvador. That was the generation of Freddy Adu, which was, he was 13 in the future of US soccer. At that moment, he was pretty good. I don't know if he was 13 or not, but he was good. And so we play Guatemala, tie them. We play US, we tie them, and we needed to beat Jamaica to go through. And we were winning 1-0, and they tied at the 91st minute. So that was crazy for us. We were 2 minutes away from the U17 World Cup, and one of the few U17s that was undefeated. we didn't lose the game. And some of the players that were there, Denny Salinas was the goalkeeper. Now he's in politics, but he was a goalkeeper at that moment. Diego Henríquez, good friend of mine, he was a center defender for us. After that, I got to play the U20s. And when I started the U20s, that's when I was 17, starting to hearing about opportunities in the US. This is 2003, 2004. So I'm very lucky. One of my mom's friends, she's doing an MBA at Tulsa, University of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Very random. Never been to Oklahoma before, or never heard much about Oklahoma or Tulsa. So she's like, hey, one of my classmates, he's the GA or grad assistant in the soccer team. So maybe Diego would like to get in contact. They give scholarships to soccer players. They have a few international players. Maybe there's a chance. So I got his email. So I emailed him. At this point, no clue what NCAA was, or the infrastructure the schools had, or the recruitment that was going on at that level of college or universities. Like, no idea. I had the opportunity because my parents, hard workers, we went in vacations to the US, visit family, but never able or exposed to this world of recruitment in college sports. So I emailed the coach and I tell him, hey, there's a tournament we'll be playing a few months from now, and it'll be in Houston. We're playing US, Canada, Honduras. So maybe that's an opportunity for you to get to see me play. At that time, 2003, not a lot of videos of games or the games I played with the U17s. None of that. Very few, no social media. So they answer back and they're very interested and say, yeah, of course, like we'll go. Like national team players for us are like very attractive to scout. And if you have the grades, you have good English, it seems like you can be a very good potential recruit for us. So we went and played that tournament, and they were there, and they got to watch 2 games against Canada and Honduras. The tournament was for the U20s of the US that was preparing for the U20s World Cup. Like, we were the new U20s, and they were 2 years older than us because they qualified. I'm sure Hugo knows these players, or you, Andres, probably know this generation. It was Eddie Johnson, Bobby Comby, Quaranta, and amazing players, and the level. Even Arturo Alvarez was playing that U20s. Arturo was playing with them. Nice. I remember talking to him. It was 2003. Oh yes, I'm from El Salvador, and I live here all my life, and but my dad is from El Salvador, and at that point, I had no idea that Arturo would play for us 5-6 years later. But giving this just context, because that's how I started to get this opportunity to go to the US. So a year later, I get to go to Tulsa. I get a 70% scholarship for a private school that at that point was around 30,000. Education in the US is crazy amounts of money being invested. So I'm saying this because if it wasn't for soccer, like zero chance, no chance for me to find that opportunity or to go, or my parents be able to pay, or me getting just a bank loan to pay that, zero chance. So soccer gave me that, and changed my life in so many different ways. My 4 years at Tulsa, not just football wise, but professional wise, academically, my network of different professionals around soccer that I got to meet. My coach is still there. Like I travel every summer, every July I'm there at the summer camp. I take boys, girls from El Salvador to be at that camp, and always be exposed to different coaches that go to that camp, and still get connected to what's happening at the NCAA level, how that's changing with the USL, with MLS Next Pro. And it's crazy how I'm still connected, but most importantly, the opportunity I had to go to Tulsa and how that changed my life in so many different ways. That's why I founded College Cup. I was like, hey, there needs to be many more that can do this and come to the US and get an education at this level that will change their lives, and do it through a sport, through soccer. That's our main the sport, and where we have more probabilities to get athletic scholarships, at least in group sports. Individual sports, you now get more Salvadorians going to the US, but maybe soccer compared to basketball or volleyball, we for sure get more chances in soccer.
And what's the Salvadoran community look like in Tulsa? How was that experience where you just completely like, where is everybody, or just, immersed in a whole new culture? What was that like?
Nothing, Andres. It was like maybe 5 to 7 people at Tulsa at that time. And one was my mom's friend that did the MBA at Tulsa, and then stayed there and worked, and her husband. But besides that, nothing. Oklahoma had a little more, and even Hispanic culture or Hispanic community in Tulsa is very small. Like at the moment, I was the only Hispanic in the team. It's only Americans and Europeans. We had a guy from Scotland and one from Germany, and then Americans. And I was the only Salvadorian, they came from El Salvador. It's not like Salvadorian, American Salvadorian, I was born in the US with Salvadorian parents. Not like I was from El Salvador. Like everybody was like, El Salvador, like, where is that? Like my classmates, so even some teachers, some teammates that have somehow not a lot of international culture, El Salvador, where's that at? Or it's so dangerous to go there. And it was great to break the ice in that way, and even for me to not have a lot of Hispanic community or friends or Salvadorian friends near, it was great for me to develop in different ways, to find different friends, and to immersed, like you said, in different cultures. Like I had to be part of a culture that's so different from El Salvador. Like even football wise, like I remember my first trip, freshman year, like at Tulsa. We were playing Virginia Tech, so we were flying to Virginia, and we get to the gate, and I see everybody taking their backpacks and taking out their laptops and books, and I'm just with my travel bag with my soccer shoes and my, like everything I need in my shin guards. Like I'm like, why is this everybody taking out their books and what are they doing? Like I had no idea of what this student athlete culture was like, and to balance your training with your academics and the condition the schools give you, like to really do well. Like all those classes I had to take. Oh, you're in the soccer team. Okay, no worries. Give me your calendar and everything will be flexible with your projects, with your exams. Like I was taking exams on the go, like in my room in the hotel. The coach came, knocked on my door. Okay, you have 1 hour. This is your economics test. I'm in my desk of the hotel one night before playing a game doing a test. Like that just impact of cultures, of just seeing the balance and the importance of academics and sports at the same level, the same relevancy. Like it was just great, and that's why like I want more people, more Salvadorians to do it. This is how we can grow in so many different ways.
And really quick, where did you play for La Chelona? Like, what was the field that you played at? Because I played for the academy for like a couple months when I was in high school. So I was like 13 or 14. It was like my freshman year. And I got to play at El Cuartel San Carlos for a little bit. And then I got moved to the field by El Banco Cuscatlán. What field did you play at?
I played in different ones. I started in La Delicias. La Delicias was nothing close what it is. It was bad grass. So I started there in Las Delicias, and then moved to El Mágico. To El Mágico, I was with Los Verdes, with the Greens, youth 12. And from there, I started playing different tournaments. That some days I had to go to El Cuartel San Carlos a little bit, and then ended up with El Zapote, another cuartel, El Zapote. So those were my different experiences in La Chelona, which was great. Like playing the local tournaments at that time, the Alphas of San Salvador, and had the opportunity to play even in national tournaments with La Chelona. I had to play Gothia Cup and Helsinki Cup in Sweden and Finland, and some games in Houston that were like Thanksgiving tournaments. La Chelona had this good relationship with Christopher Larin from La Pupusa Loca in Houston. So and even I remember La Chelona, like there was like I don't know, maybe who knows, second or third division. I don't know at that moment what was like bought a team, and La Chelona was the coach, and even El Mágico came to play some games there with this team in Houston. So it was great to be at La Chelona and be able to get exposed to all these teammates in this world of development at that time.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it as well because it was like my way of like staying fit over the summer, because we used to travel to El Salvador over the summer almost every year. And so, yeah, it was my way of trying to stay fit between like playing club and high school and all that. And it was a lot of fun. Obviously different training styles and whatnot, but it was cool getting to know the teammates there and training with them. And I'd say like the funniest part was like we'd have one day where it was like conditioning, one day that it was like técnica and like working with the ball. And then the third day would just be like, scrimmaging throughout the training. And we would go run through the neighborhood on the day that it was conditioning. And for the stragglers, people would ring the doorbell of the houses so that the slowest ones or the least fit ones would have to, run a little bit, because or else, they get their puteadas from the vecinos. So Good times. A lot of fun. I still have my jersey from back then. And I showed it to Russo when he was on, because I remember he was in the academy as well
Yeah, he was
back
there.
in the day. Yeah, so good times. That's cool. That I didn't know that you played for La Chelona, so that's cool that you got that opportunity. Um, and then what did it look like, what did it look like when you knew you had to transition into something else when it came to soccer? Because sometimes we aspire to things, we have goals, and it reaches a point that we do need to pivot. What was that transition like for you, and what was that process for you? How did you go through that?
It was close to my junior year at Tulsa. Like, I knew it was going to be very tough for me to continue with soccer, just because of the level. Like I was playing. Yes, I was playing, but I was looking at some of my teammates that were going to the draft. Some getting drafted to the combine. Some getting drafted. Some not. Some players that I play against, they were close to being drafted or not. So at that point, it was even harder. Like USL was not even half of what it is right now. MLS, very tough to play at that level. Even fewer teams. Right now, we have about 30, 31 teams. At that point, I think it was like 16 teams MLS. So the opportunity was tough. And as an international, even more, At that point, I think it was 2009. My senior year is 2008. That fall was when I played my last season. I tried to go to the combine, and I tried to talk to some clubs. FC Dallas won, Kansas City Wizards at that time.
Yeah.
Because we play them over the spring. So I tried talking to them, and some say, well, we might have a spot, but not as an international. And we can give you a spot in the reserve team or a second team, but we can't have a spot of an international player in the reserve team. So it was tough. And luckily, I think I was mature enough, and those 4 years at Tulsa gave me very opened my mind of other things I could do with soccer, related to soccer, not just playing. And one of them was even come back here, and had some offers from San Salvador, from Firpo, to play for them. But it was tough for me to decide if I keep playing. And there was another variable that was very tough also for me to decide. That 2009, when I graduated, my teammates from national team, Diego Henríquez, de Mijalas, Denis Salinas, Osael Romero, they were, at that point, it was the very low point of our story in soccer, Los Amaños. So I knew about talks of that happening. So it wasn't like I was going to come and play for a national team. I had to earn a spot and everything. But me to come back and play and aspire to be there, and knowing that was happening, my motivation, it was just completely down. I was like, I'll probably try to stay here for a year, like do my OPT or in the US, I mean. And from there, I'll find my way professionally to give back to soccer. And it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that the transition wasn't that fast. I had to work in nothing related to soccer for 4 or 5 years. And after that, it was in 2016 that I started College Cup. But before that, from 2009 to 2016, I was working private companies, good experiences. That also part of why I really want more people to do what I did, like through sports, getting a scholarship in the US, because the jobs I had opportunity to have were amazing, like amazing opportunities. But it was because I had the education in the US, that gave me a slight advantage to, let's say, a lot of people that stayed here. And again, if it wasn't through soccer, if it wasn't through football, I wouldn't have been able to do anything.
And in terms of your experience heading to the festival, because I wanted to, obviously talk about that. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we are getting close to the hour mark, and obviously we could talk for a long time. But if you could describe for us how that experience was, because obviously there were ups and downs from the outside. We all saw some of the things that were happening, especially, the new school kind of confronting the old school, or some of the mentality that, in my opinion, has plagued the development of football in El Salvador for decades. Could you talk about what was that experience of, trying to get something different going, or bringing in your knowledge, your vision of how things could be run? How like, first of all, how did you end up, in FS Food to begin with, considering, how things were run in the past, how there was never a director deportivo? There were talks about it that Chucho Ramirez at some point, with other administrations, that he was going to come in. Hugo Perez his name was thrown out in the past, that was a role that he could fulfill. But how was it that you got your foot in, or got the idea of, let's try something different?
So it was COVID 2020. He gave us a lot of free time that we probably never had before. So even more here, we were in lockdown for almost 6-7 months. So at some point in lockdown, I'm like, you know what? I'll like, everybody talks about changing football in El Salvador. Oh yeah, we need to work in las bases, trabajar con los jóvenes. Okay, yes, but where's the plan? How do you do that? So I was like, I need to just put that in paper. So I started my computer, just boom, all the ideas, trying to get in a presentation and everything to make sense. And once I finished, it was like not that quick. It was like maybe 6 weeks that I put in to just really have a good presentation, where I knew, like, for that to happen, I was proposing myself to be a sporting director, director deportivo, to make that plan happen, not just throw the plan there and how are you gonna execute it? I was like, I'll do the plan and how you can execute it. So I knew Hugo Carrillo, so I call him, say, hey, do you have a time? I want to give you or present to you a plan for you to evaluate. I know there's a lot of time right now, and I know that at some point close, I was like August, September. I know at some point this will open up and the competitions will come. So I told him, I think this is a perfect time where everything is just stopped to structure everything. And once it opens up, we are somehow better organized. There'll still be a lot of work to do, but this time that's everything, no competitions, no youth teams or youth national team playing, no senior national team close to competitions, or close to competition, but still everything stopped. So I presented a plan in August, and in September they called me back again to present it to the whole Comité Ejecutivo. So everybody was like, yeah, okay, yeah, we like this plan. Do it. Let's start. When can you start? And it's okay. We can start October. It was the next month. The proposal I gave, not everything was easy to execute. It was resources that needed to be found to make that happen. It was basically money. And even my salary, like, oh no, we can't pay you that. And I told him, hey, you know what? I'll be flexible. And I'm being transparent here, I'll be flexible. Let's tell me what you guys can pay. And after 6 months, evaluate my results. And just evaluating results, you decide if not just I can continue, but the conditions can change. Because I'm very confident that doing this professionally things would change, or in a good way for everybody. So, oh yeah, let's do it. So that's how it started, October 2020. I get in La Fest Food, and from there, some of a lot of the things that happened. Next month, I think it was November, that I started calling Hugo and saying, "Hey, we need to organize this and formalize your work." And
October, actually.
Yeah, well, October, my first month. Yeah. Like one of the first things I did in October, I called Christian Gil, dad, talked to them and presented a plan for the three boys to play in international teams. And I called Hugo Alvarado. Hey, we need to organize this. And I remember in the Zoom, we got Hugo Carrillo, Hugo Alvarado, and myself saying, formalize this. And formalize it is still very, again, being transparent here, I didn't have at that point a budget. I told him, hey, I need to formalize Hugo Alvarado as a scout for national teams, but he needs to get paid for this. Oh no, right now we don't have money for that. And I'm like, okay, if I get the resources, we need to do that. And we started formalizing that way. And that's because a lot of people ask about this, and Hugo done this before I got there. And then when I got there, it was a direct communication, and it was very much formal, but still Hugo wasn't getting paid for what he should, this is happening in Mexico. This is happening in Germany. This is happening in Spain. Jamaica is doing it a lot now in England. You seeing it in the elite, but you also see it in our neighbors. We should have in La Federación Hugo and probably 3-4 more that can help him geographically in North America, and probably having one person in Europe to find players and talk to their, not just families, but agents, coaches. There's a lot of things that need to be done that way. Some people think, oh yeah, find players. He can find players. But the work, once you find them, it's a lot. To get communications with the player directly, his parents, coaches, agents, it's a lot happening. So consulates, and there's a lot of things happening. So after that, the U23s, well, not U23s, U20s and U17s were the closest competitions. So I tell the comité, hey, I propose before I propose names of coaches, I want to present profiles of the coaches who we should have. And from those profiles, I'll present names, but I won't do it backwards. I won't bring names without really knowing the profile that we should have. And in that profile, I'm not going to get into a lot of details, was knowing Salvadoran culture and North American culture, because part of the vision was to have these globalized national teams where you have players born in El Salvador, born and raised in El Salvador, but also you have players that were born outside the borders of El Salvador. And for that, you needed coaches that have this multicultural knowledge, mindset. And that's how my first option was Hugo Perez. Hey, Hugo Perez is the right guy for our youth national teams. I'll tell them youth national team, U20s, U17s, and if it gets activated at that moment, we didn't know, the U23s. That was a proposal. I was not even talking about senior national team, which the Los Cobos were already there. I was like, I let that process go and happen what needs to happen, but let's restructure youth national teams and women national teams. And things started to move quickly. After a few weeks, I already talked with Hugo. Hugo had already talked with Enrico. So I get in a video conference with Enrico. I talk with Enrico's dad. I talk with him, with the club. And Hugo Perez, finally, after I proposed him in October. He got officially named or coach of the U23s in December. At that point, FIFA canceled the U20s and U17s World Cup and said, no World Cups until 2 years from now. So it was like, okay, we focus only on U23s. And Enrico was there, Josh Perez, Calvillo, let's see who else from the US we brought in.
Was Gilbert Fuentes at that
Gilbert
tournament?
Fuentes, remember him? Yeah, it was.
We
He was in the
him.
tournament. We brought him in for camp, but I think he still needed more time, more playing time. But still, we brought him in. We wouldn't know that if we wouldn't bring him to El Salvador. Damian Alguera was one of the first also, like, who told me, hey, you need to have this goal. He's a 2003, very young at that time in 2020. He's 17, but he's good in the US, might call him. So we brought Damian Alguera to the U23s, and we started working with the best of El Salvador. Like, I told him, you don't know much of talent here in La Liga, but I already scouted the top talent for you, Peru at that point. So I proposed that we can have camps with the top players from La Primera División. But 12 teams. Last place to first place, the guys are U23s. We brought 60 guys for the first camp. For Hugo Perez to start knowing the guys. And parallel, we will scouting players with Hugo Alvarado. I remember talking with a lot. And at same time, even U20s, U17s, I remember those days was Danny Rios getting his homegrown contract. I remember talking to Hugo saying, hey, we need to move quick here. Let's get him, committed to play with us. And then Jeremy Garay, also homegrown contract. So we were moving quick, like we were with Hugo Alvarado and Hugo Perez. Things were easier for me to do, like I knew the structure in the US. Hugo knows the people. Hugo Perez has very top reputation in El Salvador and the US. Like even for Roldan, you remember Alex Roldan? Oh, Alex Roldan. I remember getting there in October, November. I talked to Carlos de los Cobos and Neto Boches. Hey, you need to go talk to this guy, Alex Roldan, starting for the Sounders, and could play for El Salvador and Guatemala. They didn't care. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, didn't talk to him at all. So after U23s, when they finish in next month in April, the federation tells Hugo Perez, hey, we'll give you all. Senior national team and the youth national teams. So we start moving. Gold Cup was coming. The qualifying for the octagonal was coming. And we talked with Seattle Sounders about the possibility to talk with Alex Roldan. So I send them an email. They answer back, hey, okay, we'll present your plan to him and his agent. And we don't know what will they say, but we will give it to them. It's on them if they'll call you back or text you or email you back.
You just have to follow the regular protocol to reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. And a week later and get an email from his agent. And 2 weeks from there, we're going to Zoom like this with Roldan and Hugo Perez and myself. Like I knew for me, it was very important to have Alex Roldan with Hugo. And Hugo tell him what he was planning to do, because Alex was very close to play for Guatemala. And they were 6 months, 4 months ahead of us with him. And that conversation changed everything. And 2 weeks from that, Alex was getting his Salvadorian passport and playing his first official game against Guatemala in the Gold Cup 2 years ago. So
and score the goal.
Yeah.
And it scored a goal. That's a
cherry
story
on top.
that's cherry on top for sure. And I was same time all this was happening inside La Federación. It was I sometimes say like an earthquake, like a little bit of what you said, like a new vision with the old school still trying to do and move things or barely move things like they were used to, and us moving things quickly with reputation of coach, reputation of people getting involved with Alvarado, Diego Henríquez, Gerson Perez, Fito Menéndez, Pablo Rodas. And all this brought in a different way to see La Selecta again. And even I told him, hey, this is the moment to bring back the sponsors. Talk to la empresa privada. Bring back sponsors to La Federación. And I remember them saying, oh, yeah, like, this guy is dreaming, so I can do that. And me and Hugo Perez made a presentation to companies, and for having 0 sponsors, we went to have 8. So from the inside and outside, things were moving. You're seeing a different vision. You're seeing a different type of structure. You're seeing credibility to start. And that also gets confused with results, like sometimes, like this is not just bringing back credibility and organizing the federation, not necessarily will have results just like that, like we were just having the couple first stones in the project compared to what Panama is doing, compared to Costa Rica, not even close to Mexico, Canada, or US. All the federations are 40, 50 years ahead of us, but we started to move things around and knowing how to do it. Like after Tulsa, I had the opportunity to do an MBA or 2 MBAs in sports marketing and sports administration. So it's not I was or we were improvising or just let's see what happens. Like we knew what was needed to be done to change things, and they were moving. They were moving even in the US. Like I talked to so many people in the US from El Salvador, from MLS, from CONCACAF, saying, "Hey, you guys are doing things different. Like El Salvador is just being different. Like what's happening." I remember Gerardo Torrado in the game Mexico El Salvador Gold Cup at the Cotton Bowl saying, "Hey Diego, what are you guys doing, man? It's a year ago we didn't have you guys in the map as some teams that can be complicated for us, and that was before the game, and now we're fighting for the first place in Gold Cup. Like, well, what are you guys doing, and how are you guys doing it? And getting that international credibility also with Mexico, with Canada, with the US, even now, like they're still talking about the good work Hugo Perez is doing with the national team, with the resources that we have, resources not just financially, but with the players that we're able to look for and have in our national teams, the leagues they're playing in, and still Salvador is trying to move ahead and start to organize in a different way.
And when did you feel like the wheels were starting to fall off on your tenure there? Because we did see, a reinvention of things. Unfortunately, with how the conditions have been over there, it seemed like you had to almost reinvent the wheel in terms of your position, visibility, like you mentioned, that marketing aspect, the logistical aspect, the sports administration aspect. There were a lot of shoes to fill, and it seemed like you had to put many hats on, still on a pretty small budget, or as like sometimes I joke around, and it's not to offend anybody, but like a Walmart budget, but how did things start to change internally, at least at an administrative level, to the point, that things played out the way they did?
At some point, it was like beginning of 2021, after the U23s, so March, April, me and Will Perez built a development plan for the Federación, named 2022-2026. Like, not just to try to go to World Cup, but what we could change in the development of El Salvador, just internally and also recruitment internationally. So when we presented that plan, there was like zero interest of the comité to make it happen. That point was like, oh no, that's no way we can do it. There's a lot of money, and next year is elections, and we don't know if we're going to be there to make that plan happen. So that's where we can say the wheel's starting to go off, because I was putting a lot of my time in what was getting back. It was, my close family and friends, like, they were never happy with me getting to the federation. They're like, why will you do it? Like, you work so much on College Cup, on your reputation, on your academics, and why go to a place where they're doing everything wrong, And I was like, it has to be some point that we change that, like, why we're seeing going in a direction that might not be the best, why not trying to support, to be part of a change, And that was my motivation. But at that point, when we can do that plan, and me and Hugo went, okay, no problem. We will bring the resources to make this plan happen. And they were, okay, bring those resources. And we started to confirm sponsors. And once sponsors started to getting in, Federation was like, hey, you know what? There's other necessities that we need to use this money that's coming in. So we can guarantee that money from the sponsors will go to your plan. So that's where for me, it was like, I was like, it was playing off. Like, it was completely just zero motivation to continue. And that was 2021, but Hugo was like, for a few months, like, hey, come on, let's try to work it. Don't tell me you're not going to continue, please. Just let's try to make this happen, And it was because of Hugo Perez, but I still kept trying, but it was mid 2021 when I saw that things were not going to go on the best direction, even us bringing the resources to try to change things in La Federación. But Gold Cup was coming, Octagonal was coming, so there was some big things happening. Gold Cup is very decent. We did a good job, and everybody was very, very ilusionado. For the Octagonal, like, we knew from the beginning it was almost no chance for us to make the 3 spots. But we said, okay, for our 2026 plan, this will be great for this generation of players to have this type of experience and this type of games. For when 2026 comes, these guys already play against Mexico, against Canada, against the US in tough matches, tough environments. And these guys, the Roldans, the Enricos, Harold, who's coming and almost play some games, and Mario Gonzalez and los Tomás Romeros will come for 2024 when the qualifying for 2026 will come. There'll be more experience. Okay, let's do that. But I told him, like, this will come with a high risk, of us taking this challenge, that some things can happen and results are not going to come, and people and even the federation going to push, and we might not be for the 2026 process. I remember telling this to Hugo, but we'll take the risk, like, we're already there. So kept trying, and the U20s came in, and that was something different that again gave me the motivation to say, okay, maybe just having this U20s qualify for a second World Cup will change things, and we'll probably make some moves inside the federation to have better development of players, better plans, and more resources will come, and we can use them properly. And I still think the U20 should have qualified. We had everything. The preparation under the circumstances and resources that we had, I think it was great. That was a cup that we talked about a few minutes ago, and UNCAF and friendly games against Mexico that I build and still have a great relationship with them, with the Mexican Federation. I think we gave the players the preparation that they needed, and the scouting we made before happened a year and a half ago. Started with Hugo Alvarado, with Dani Rios, with Jeremy Garay, and Damian Alguera. And we had the best of the players in El Salvador. We had Osorio that was there, Mayer Hill. So I still think that generation of players had an amazing opportunity to change. And unfortunately, we didn't make it, and things still not moving or not in the direction that they should or could be.
And was it the whole debacle after the win away at Honduras, or was it the U20s that was just kind of like the moment where, the crossroads were reached?
I think it was two peak moments. One was a game against Canada in El Salvador. You remember the players going away and saying they were not going to play? Like, at that point, the players were tired of El Comité and say no more. Like, we can't, like, some people don't know, like, that was a lot of things happened before that. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, we're not going to play because we don't want to, or they're not giving us the prices, the money they promised. There was a lot of things that players went through to take that decision. So at that point, I was like, all right, this is not going to end up well. I think I shouldn't continue be related to everything that's happening here. Like, I can add more value. Like, it's not in my hands or Hugo Pérez's hands to change this. But again, Hugo and the U20s was the reason I was like, okay, this could be one way to start changing or football. And the U20s going to the qualifying, me not going and knowing that hours before traveling, I was like, all right, like, this is getting too personal, and I might even be affecting more of what I'm trying to help support, because it was too personal of El Comité and the decisions being taken, that I was just in the middle of something that I shouldn't be. Like, I would love to be supporting a Selecta and trying to change different ways to help our football. But if the people taking decisions don't see it that way, I'm putting my reputation in the middle. I'm putting more time, risking my company, risking family time to things that are not going to go the way, or I can't control the way things are going to be happening, or professionally how things can move, or decisions being made at comité level or political level inside the federation, that I was like, okay, this is enough. Like, I thought, if things don't change, thank you very much, but I'll step away and can't continue.
Well, there's a lot, right, that Diego just I mean, I'm aware of a lot of the things that he described, but one thing that I like to point out, that I think I when I talked to Diego, I mentioned this to him, that what Diego did, it's a clear example of something that can be applied in different areas of life, not only in soccer. because there's a lot of people, and we see it in El Salvador, that they say, I have this plan, and I have been presenting this plan, and they've written books, and they have all these things about how they're going to change the world and how they're going to change Salvadorian soccer. But it's almost like it's either my way or the highway. It's like if they don't get everything they want in the way they want it, it stays as a theory of what can be done. And I think Diego came in and he had a plan. He came up with a plan. He presented the plan, and he showed how the plan could be executed. And I think a lot of positive improvements were made, and we're still seeing as a result of what you started, Diego. And I just wanted to point that out because I think it's a great example for many of us. And I say this because I can relate. You know, when I started with Selecta Talent, it was like, it's my own thing. I'm just going to do it. And a lot of people used to tell me, don't waste your time. Lo mismo de siempre. Eso ya sabes que no sirven y que no sé qué. And, you know, I had to like ignore that and just continue and focusing on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to support. And I think Diego did something very similar. So I just wanted to like rewind a little bit. And you know, when you said during the pandemic, you came up with a plan and it took you 6 weeks to put together, which is pretty fast actually, and actually execute it. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And hopefully, you know, we'll see you involved again in one way or another with Salvadorian. I mean, you're doing it. You're definitely doing it already with College Cup. And I think a lot of us would love to see what you do with College Cup also being done at a national team level. I mean, many areas from, you know, having teams participate in those tournaments to the sponsorship that you get for your academy. So just wanted to mention that and ask you the question: do you ever see yourself back? I mean, I'm not talking 6 months from now or a year from now, but someday, do you see yourself being part of it in one way or another for the 2026 run?
Oof, it's a very tough one. It's tough with the conditions that our federation has right now. I think there's a lot of work needs to be done to clean different parts, processes, departments of La Federación before not myself, but anybody that tries to be sporting director or marketing manager or I don't know, a finance manager inside the federation can do some work and really have the professionalism and transparency around it to do a good work. A lot of things needs to change. So right now, I think it would be like, for me or anybody, high risk to quemarse, to burn yourself, your reputation, to go inside something that it wouldn't have the reasonable conditions. I'm not saying that we should be like Mexico and US starting next month, but it will be tough. And what's, I think the not worst, but like maybe the most difficult thing to analyze is that the chance we have to qualify to World Cup, it won't happen again, like the 2026 possibility. Like this is for El Salvador and any other CONCACAF national team, you know? This could be same for
like the 1970 situation where, you know, Mexico's host. So, you know, it's everyone else trying to get that spot that you'd think they'd get.
Yeah, I know, 50 years for another similar opportunity to happen, you know, like you have 3 giants already qualified and you having 3 spots plus 2 going to playoff game. Oh, it's tough because same mentality should be for anybody else in the CONCACAF. But for us, even playing the U.S. a World Cup, it could be amazing. But a lot of things needs to happen, and nobody can guarantee those conditions will be there to try to make that happen. Even for Hugo Perez, he's doing the best he can, but there's a lot of conditions that he can't control that will be difficult for him to going for the qualifyings in 2026. So to answer your questions, I think the conditions we have right now, I wouldn't go back just because from the outside, people will really hope for El Salvador to qualify, but the conditions inside are not there for a Salvadorian team to qualify. Like if we talk about, and we have said this before, you qualify to a World Cup as an ecosystem, like a platform, not a coach, not 23 players, not 11 players. It's ecosystems that qualifies to World Cups. And ours is not there to qualify. If we do qualify, it will be a lot of credit for this coach, for the players.
The nucleus, yeah.
The nucleus that's part of it, but the ecosystem for us to go to World Cup is not there. So for me or somebody to go head first to this opportunity, you have a lot of red flags before it, to do that. And I already experienced those recently, so I'll probably have to wait more to get involved again.
So we can infer that currently you're not in, your name's not in the hat or in the running for a similar position moving forward.
No, at the moment, now maybe when they change los estatutos or they really change things around, for sure, consider it. But at this moment, with the conditions, I already know what are the conditions. I've been there recently, and I think at the moment I'll probably add more value just as a fan and trying to keep developing players on the side with the academy, with the College Cup.
I got two brief ones because we don't want to take more of your time. We've chatted a lot. And obviously there's so much to chat about, and I appreciate you taking the time. This one's going to be like a non sequitur, but
okay.
I'm into jerseys. I'm into kits. What was the process in terms of the design and choosing of the design while you were there? How involved were you in this process, or how did that process play out specifically with La Selecta?
Probably the same spot as you are. Like zero influence on that, and very unlucky. And you said it before. So many hats that I had to fill in. Yeah, I was sporting director, but sometime I was team manager, marketing manager, assistant coach, scouting players, and I had a marketing background, and as Hugo said before, for our academy or one of our core businesses is sports marketing, and our new kids. For the Gold Cup of 2021, we had this black New Jersey. Everybody loved it. I was like, oh, this is great. Okay. We play at the beginning was Curacao and then Trinidad, Mexico. So I knew the other teams were playing. Okay, we can do with Trinidad. They can play white and we can play black. And Federation was like, no, we're not going to use black jerseys. Well, we're just not going to use it. Like, wait. Does not make any sense. We just release a black kit that everybody's loving it, and we're not going to use it. Like, can you please explain why we're not going to use it? And then the font being used for the numbers and players' names or last names, I was like, oof. We had to fight to approve the federation to let us put the last names or names in the players' jerseys. Like I was like, how? Like why are we arguing about this. Like, this should be done. I remember in Mexico, I never said this in public before, but it's been a long enough. So in Mexico, playing the pre-Olympics with the U23s, they gave me the jerseys without names. I told them, this is a great opportunity. First time ever we'll have Enrico, Josh Perez play with us. Like, we put their names in and we start selling these jerseys, in El Salvador, in the US. Oh, no, we can't do that. Our contract doesn't let us do that. I'm like, what? Why are we, like, are we a federation trying to make income and put it in the development of players, or why are we so restricted, And so I went in Mexico and had the uniforms, and locally I found a supplier to put their names. So I put in the names 2 days before starting the pre-Olympics, put their names in, and everybody got their names. With the font, I was like, what font do we use? Like, who says what? Like, we changing uniforms? Who changed the fonts? Who decides what? Like,
Branding.
It's branding, and Uber wasn't involved. Like, we send the jerseys, you guys put the font you guys want. And El Utilero, the equipment manager with a local supplier in El Salvador. We call this guy and he puts their names and numbers. Like, why don't we have a machine? We can just put the names in and use the font. But I don't want to go different ways. We don't know who designs it. I know I got to know a lot of people in CONCACAF about Costa Rica. They started with New Balance and now with Adidas. They have inside designers in Costa Rica that design their kit, and they talked with the designers at that point it was in England with New Balance. Hey, this is what we're doing, okay? And this is how we want our new logo to be in this part, in these colors. And when we use white, we use it this way. But for us, it was like, all right, we use ES, la S, but we also have logo de Federación. When we use ES and where we put ES, like, I don't know at this point who does that and who decides that. And it's very unlucky, it's part of being professionalized. So you have a sporting director, you have a team manager, you have finance manager, you have a marketing manager that does this in ways that we can even involve at this point La Comunidad in the US or El Salvador to help design different kits in different ways.
Cool. Well, that's interesting to know because, I've always been curious on how some of those decisions were made or what that process was like, at least in El Salvador. So thanks for answering that. Last one for me would be, despite, I think your short-lived stint with La Selecta, what would be your favorite moment or takeaway that you'll be able to savor that moment or memory, the rest of your life without it being, tainted or bittersweet?
Oh, there's a lot. And if I had to pick a two, I would say working with Hugo Perez for sure is the first one. That's amazing. Like, I still have a great relationship with him. We talk a lot still, and that'll be for sure the first one. And then I think it was being part of Octagonal and everything around it, not just the games, that the experience and the learnings in so many different ways of Octagonal gives you, of organizing, traveling, nutrition, transportation, all this logistics around Octagonal, this level. It was some key learnings that I would for sure, like, I use right now. Like, we travel Dallas with a small academy. Like, I know a lot of different ways we can travel, eat, prepare for games. Like, just respecting the distance of Octagonal, but having that exposure to see how other teams organize themselves, other federations organize themselves for that type of level. You are fighting for a spot for a World Cup. you had El Salvador traveling in Avianca in 2 groups to Toronto, and you had Canada, US, Mexico, Costa Rica doing what is it called? I lost the name of charter flights everywhere.
Did you guys get charged extra fees for Avianca for the measurements of your maletas?
At some point, to be really honest, there were some airlines, including Avianca, that for being La Selecta, they'd avoid some fees. It's like, oh no, you're Selecta, yeah, hey, no worry, hey, yes, you can pull those bags or extra bags in, no cost. That's true. But going back, those learnings about everything going around, and the learnings I got to take or learn were not from us. It was looking at the other teams, how the other teams travel, how the other teams prepare for games, what they do in training, what they do in the hotel. Like I calls from Mexico 1 month before playing us in El Cuscatlán. Hey, Terral, I'll send our team manager. I want her to travel to El Salvador just to be sure the hotel is okay, the transportation, the field will train, everything is okay. So US, the same, 1 week before, 1 month before. Brian McBride calling me, hey, Diego, hey, I'll send my team manager to look for the hotel, look for talk to the chef of the hotel. Like all this, we had no idea. Like I'm traveling with a Selecta, I get to the hotel and, all right, what are we going to do here? What's the distance to the stadium? All right, the menu is not what we asked for. So who do we talk to? So many things that around the octagonal that we will learn. And this is something important, like there's a lot of people that get to the Federación that are exposed to all these things, but not necessarily learn them. They just live it, but not necessarily learn about it. Like I remember U23s, the first international competition. All the teams we play, the team manager or sporting director bring a gift to the other team. So we play in Canada. Canada brings me a gift. It's just something typical from Canada, and it's something just a small detail. And we had nothing. Like I was like, I didn't know anything. Like who talk to me about this? Like I should come prepared to this. Gold Cup, my next international competition. I myself had to look for, and I remember talking to El Banco Agrícola. Yeah, this amazing books of different things of El Salvador, architecture, animals, nature. So I bring these books from El Salvador, from Banco Agrícola, and those were small gifts we gave to other federations. So a lot of details. I'm just giving some examples, but there's so many others. Like I tell you, traveling wise, all right, how the equipment manager of Mexico travels and how many bags they bring and how do they bring their GPS and the cleats and everything that needs to be taken to a game. How do they do it? Like, no, we have 27 bags. Right? How do we pay for this? Oh, they do, instead of bags, they do boxes. And the boxes you buy, you buy them in the US, and you can, instead of 27 bags, those boxes will be like 10. Okay, so you pay less instead of paying 27 bags. And nutrition wise, what this guy's menu looks like. US is eating pasta 3 times per day. Why are you doing it? Who decides it? Oh, let me talk to this nutritionist in the US. Oh, they even have a motivational coach. It's not a psicólogo, it's motivational coach. Oh, I got to meet with him, and what he does individual sessions. He does group sessions. He does individual sessions with the coaches. All these learnings, like we're so far behind so many of them, and we try to implement some of them. Video analysis. You have 6 video analysts in the US. We had 0, and then we brought in Victor Garcia. There's Victor Garcia and me, And I see in Columbus playing US, I see next to us, US has 6 video analysts. Oh, okay. What do they do? Why 6? What cameras do they use? What software are they using to cut videos? All these learnings, how do they recover? 3 games in 10 days, and you traveling between those games. How do you recover? All right, they're eating this way, and they're having 3-4 physios with them all the time, trainers, and this is how they recover. They do this and they do that. Okay, all these learnings, they were very key, and I implemented some of them in the octagonal, in the U20s, and the women's and the girls' national teams with very small resources, but we tried. But that, for me, was one of the best learnings in the almost 2 years I was able to be in La Selecta.
Cool.
Nada más ya son las 11 para Diego.
Sí. Rapidito,
Parte
just really
dos.
quick. Future-wise, do you see yourself working, locally with one of the clubs, or at a national team level with another country, another federation? What would be almost like your dream job with all the knowledge and experience that you've gotten?
I probably see myself in some of the options you gave me, supporting some of our local teams, pro teams, first division, second or third. Why not? Trying to support them, not working full time with them, but trying to some type of consultancy to guide them how they can organize better. I can see myself doing that. I'm also could see myself working with other federations, probably. Some opportunities that could be happening soon with other federations. And let's say mid and long term, I for sure would like to be part of just supporting El Salvador, either the federation directly or professional teams, more than going outside. But sometimes it's funny how you can maybe be an option outside El Salvador than inside, but it's just sometimes how things work.
All right, well, I think we'll close with that. Thanks so much. You sat a pretty decent amount of time and talked about a lot of stuff with us, and basically, I appreciate you responding to like a cold Instagram message out of the blue. And I know you've been in touch with the world too, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time. It's been a pleasure meeting you and chatting it up, and we wish you luck with future endeavors.
Oh, thank you, Andres. And it's a pleasure for me to share moments with the Salvadorian community, and especially with you too, that try to get communication and really try to get close to stories and people in soccer in El Salvador. So when you sent me that message and I knew who was involved, for me it was a no-brainer. Share some time with you guys. It's a pleasure, and hopefully get to see you guys in person soon with Gold Cup or any other opportunities in the US, or whenever you guys are able to come here. So happy to share moments as well.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Diego. Gracias.
No, gracias a ustedes. Gracias, se les agradece, y cualquier cosa a la orden.
Well, there you have the chat that we had with Diego Henríquez, former sporting director of La Selecta. I'd say this is the longest interview we've had with any of our guests, including the one time I forgot to press the record button with Diego Coca. Bless his heart that he did take 2 with us. But yes, this has been, I'd say, a pretty eye-opening chat. I've never spoken with Diego Henríquez in the past, and I definitely appreciate him opening up about his origins as a player, where his connection to football, to soccer comes from, and how he's been able to stay close to it, being in different roles. And I think that's something admirable. We all have our passions, and I think it's important that we stay connected to them. one way or another. And if we can make jobs out of it, even better. Or if you can just have like a side project or a passion project like this podcast, it's something that it's fulfilling. And so it's awesome to hear someone's story of how they've been able to stay connected to something that they have so much passion about. Well, any brief thoughts before we close this thing out?
No, just like, I think it's good. It's always good for the fans, and us. I mean, to have like the more like the big picture and more details of how things work, around all the logistics of a national team and some of the limitations that we referring to like El Salvador as a national team, all the limitations that we have and things that the general public doesn't see when we create some type of opinion about something or the way some things went. Sometimes it's always good to have the entire picture to know how sometimes some of the guys in there, I mean currently in there as well, they have to really stretch themselves to be able to accomplish even on occasion some of the basics that are needed to operate as a national team. So it's great. It was great to see Diego again, and like I said, I mean, you can see that his vision of soccer kind of really fit with what I was doing. So I think that's part of the reason why we were able to move a lot of pieces very quickly in terms of strictly about player recruitment, because he had the vision and knew the two cultures, because he went to university here in the US, so he was able to understand the mentality of an American-born Salvadorian, and that helped a lot when it came to bringing players in.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there was that, I guess, initial boom at levels that a success rate that you hadn't necessarily had previously due to the restrictions of not being able to function with an official title from the federation. It also gives you an idea of what the coaching staff is currently going up against, even as we speak, where things tend to get very simplified in El Salvador by the press, by some of the naysayers. And I don't consider myself, someone that roots for a specific coaching staff or person within the federation. I just like to observe and I root for my team. But what I am noticing is things are being oversimplified in the results, whether they're coming or not, but no one's stopping to talk about what Diego mentioned of the requirements, the long list of requirements that it takes to be able to provide a competitive team. And we're seeing that despite all of the things that we're lacking, El Salvador is still being able to field a squad, or is beginning to field a squad that looks competent, like we mentioned last episode. And I think we can't oversimplify things in that way where it's the coach's fault, it's the team's fault. It's something that goes beyond it. Diego mentioned the ecosystem. It goes way beyond that. And I think that's something that we have to understand. And hopefully there are going to be more people motivated to step it up along the way to help improve and build on that ecosystem. But until then, the masoquistas are going to be there watching the game. And those of us that, won't take it out on anybody and just swallow up the results and some of the agony that comes involved with being a fan, you just take it and you hope for the best and move on. And then you're going to have those, of course, that love to putear online or at the stadium. But in any case, I think this is a very important glimpse into what the improvements or the steps that were made within the last couple of years, the attempt that Diego Henríquez made during his tenure, and hopefully what can be aspired to now that the veil is off on the intricacies, you know, and the logistics and just the ecosystem, everything that was mentioned into creating a competitive national team. So with that, Will, do you have anything else you want to tell the listeners? It's late. Can you tell, ladies and gentlemen? So with that, we want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Definitely retweet, share, whatever you can to get this episode out, because I know there's a lot of people that could get some pretty cool information, anecdotes that Diego was gracious enough to share with us. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you guys next time.